Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. We like to call this Monday Night Football. What we talk about, la Selección Mexicana, Liga MX, Mexicans abroad, and Liga MX Femenil también. Let's go ahead and get started. Say hi to everybody. Start off with our usual question. Let this music die down a little bit. The cumbia. All right, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm Wiso from Food Mex Nation. This is an all-on podcast, like I said, all about Fútbol de México. Let's go ahead and get started with Monterrey. We don't talk a lot about Monterrey. We mentioned it, but we should. The upcoming schedule's coming up, and I like to ask these guys, first start off, when will Monterrey take their first loss? Start off, Mr. Tom Marshall in Guadalajara.
I can see him going unbeaten this season.
Oh, the whole season.
Oh,
the Cactus coming. Atlas.
Look at it.
Santos, Querétaro, Pachuca, Pumas, América, Pop.
Right now, I can't see him losing. I mean, obviously, the most difficult games they've got this season are all at home. It's further on to the matches. They've got Pachuca at home, obviously going to be a difficult game. But you'd back Monterrey at home. You've got América at home. You'd back them at home. And then the final day of the season, can you imagine if Monterrey get to the final day of the season and the Clásico Regio against Tigres just to get the unbeaten record? But right now, the way they're playing, I can't see people beating them. I mean, they're just on fire. Avilés Hurtado, unbelievable. Dolan Pavón missed the penalty, but absolutely on fire as well. And the bench is so deep. And I think Monterrey really are the team to beat this season.
Monterrey team to beat. Mr. Naim Moran, is it the Warriors of the Liga MX of the NBA?
It kind of feels like that. We saw Buenas noches. We saw Cesar, Tom, and our special guest Adriana. It feels kind of that they're unbeatable. Like just Tom said. I mean, this game against Cruz Azul, they drew 1-1. But if it wasn't for Corona, it could have been a win for Monterrey. If you see how many shots he took in the second half. I think those games against Pachuca and América, the home games, are going to be difficult, and Pachuca and América might have chances to defeat Monterrey. And of course, when it comes to the Clásico Regio, it's coin up in the air as well. I think those three matches, which are home, could be dangerous for Monterrey. When you look at it, that if they lose a game, but right now, it looks like they're going to be unbeaten the whole season.
Cesar. It's Liga MX. These guys are saying that a team's going to go undefeated.
Yeah.
They're going to lose against one of Necaxa or Atlas or Puebla. Just watch.
Yeah, I'm going to say, hi everyone, by the way. I'm going to say that they're going to lose in a midweek match. In week 11, they're going to be taking on Santos. I know Santos hasn't been the most exciting team, but I think Santos are a little bit underrated. But I think one of those midweek games like that, where they might not use their best roster, even though Tom says they do have depth, maybe they'll use some backups after a busy weekend. So I think that's when they'll get caught off guard, and that's we can have some players. I mean, when you look at Santos' roster, you have like Gael Sandoval, Nestor Araujo. It's. I think they're an underrated team, and yeah, I'm predicting week 11. That's when I think that they'll get their first loss.
Well, there you go. To the week. And we have a special guest tonight, Adriana Terrazas from, she's an editor at ESPN MX, Liga MX Femenil fan. And she wanted to say she's a Real Madrid and Chivas fan, in case. But Adriana, I know we can't see you because I know you're working late. You're still at the offices at ESPN, but we can hear you. How are you? And thank you for jumping on.
Hey guys, it's such a pleasure to see you guys. Well, at least I can see you, but not you, me. And yeah, if you hear any clatter, and just voices in the background, that's the ESPN office right now. Yeah, we just saw a Liga MX Femenil game, really good game between Pachuca and América, which we'll speak about in a minute. And regarding Monterrey, I was actually thinking about this, and I was like, really, am I the only one that could actually think that they might go unbeaten the entire season? I'm so happy to see I'm not. But I'm actually, despite how strong they've been as a home team, I think Pachuca might surprise them around week 13. I think Pachuca might be improving. They finally have Honda. And I think they might surprise Monterrey as a home game on week 13. other than that, it just seems really difficult because I have really good games and really easy games away. They have Puebla, which I really don't think will do much. So it'll just be a matter of fact of seeing them keep up, avoid any injuries, and just seeing if any absences could impact the team.
All right, man, to the T. Great points, Adriana. Let's go to the chat. The chat saying all about, let's go. See, the one is saying Monterrey isn't winning the league. That's all I know. And this might sound crazy, but he's seeing Cruz Azul already winning it all.
Wait, what?
Wow. Yeah.
Dude, is that Jason on the chat or something? Are you sure that's not?
He didn't switch it. He didn't switch his name. It's good to start off. Great to have a team that's dominating, and it's not your usual historic four that everyone keeps talking about, and Monterrey. But good to see that. I'm gonna go with they're gonna lose against Necaxa next time. It's Liga MX. I'm just gonna go with the opposite. Everyone thinks something's gonna happen. Liga MX will find a way. Well, mark my words, they're gonna lose at home against Necaxa. What happened? I think didn't they tie Leon? I mean, we'll see how it goes. All right, but let's go ahead and jump in to the topic. Normally we like to do El Tri first, but we're talking about Monterrey. Monterrey, we talked about the dominance right now, but let's go into Monterrey and Cruz Azul. Exciting match between the last two undefeated teams of all very different records. But biggest takeaway, guys, from this match and this weekend, for me, if Cruz Azul once again having a great game, and then in the last 10 minutes finding a way to lose it. We'll talk a little about Cruz Azul, but on the Monterrey side, on that match, what was your takeaway? Naib, start with you, my friend, there in La Ciudad de Mexico.
I would say that I think Corona's performance was phenomenal. There was just one play where he made like 4 saves. And I think that stood out, Corona's performance, but also the way that Monterrey plays. It's so direct. I mean, it kind of goes totally against to most of the teams in Liga MX that, give a certain responsibility or privilege, or I don't know how to say it, but they highlight a lot the possession. With Monterrey is from the defenders to the attack. It's direct football, the purest form, and they have the best players for it. And I think we mentioned it on the show already about Dorlan and Avilés and how they offer that, but also Funes Mori, the way that he covers the ball and everything, and the options that he opens up for the rest of his teammates. But I think Corona's performance was interesting because of what is next with the national team. Ochoa is coming off 2 games where he's conceded about 8 goals in Belgium, and it raises a question of who Osorio will start in the qualifier, the one that's coming up against Panama.
Tom, we've been saying for some time that the talent level of Monterrey has been only rivaled by their crosstown rival Tigres. Why is it just now clicking? What's the difference, if there's one? Compared from last season to this season.
I think I mentioned it before, but I think Edwin Cardona leaving. I think he was an unsettling influence in the squad, and then Avilés Hurtado, fellow Colombian, coming in. I just think style-wise, like Naib mentioned, they're a very direct side. They like to play on the transitions, play on the counter. And I think Cardona, as talented as he is, as technically brilliant as he is, I think he kind of, apart from his unsettling influence, he also slowed down the play. So Cardona kind of needs a couple of touches, and I think he's more suited to a possession-based side. Whereas Avilés Hurtado doesn't care. He doesn't care about playing a sideways pass. I don't think they do it. Him and Dolan Pabon, I don't think they do it. They just get the ball and they're running as quickly as they can towards goal. Very vertical style play. And I think that's been a major factor for Monterrey this season. Just that simple change, I think, has helped him a lot. I think, Nico Sanchez as well at centre-back, that partnership with Basanta. I know Cesar Montes came in last weekend, but, they're just 2, 33 years old Basanta, 31 years old Sanchez, just so much experience behind him. And if you're going to get past Monterrey with those 2 as centre-backs, you've got to do a lot. They don't make it easy for you to score against them either.
I don't want to take... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Cesar. Go ahead.
I don't want to take anything away from Cruz Azul. I know that Cruz Azul was very close to getting that win, but I do think that they needed a little bit of luck in that draw. Monterrey hit the woodwork. I believe it was Cesar Montes who hit the post off a header, and then you have Chuy Corona have an excellent performance in that which also included the penalty. Yeah. I mean, it could have easily gone both ways. I mean, you got to give credit to Corona for stopping the penalty, but I mean, in another match, it could have easily gone another way. So I do think that Cruz Azul needed a little bit of luck there, and it kind of highlights a little bit once again, just even in this match where they had to get a late goal in order to walk away with a draw, I still thought that they were, slightly the better side. I thought they looked better in the attack. They looked more efficient. I think and like Tom said, they were just much more direct than Cruz Azul. But yeah, no, I got to give credit to both teams. But yeah, no, I do think that Cruz Azul needed a little bit of luck against that Monterrey side.
I thought, just quickly, I just thought it was a really fair reflection of where Cruz Azul are at. Like, I think, they've gone 14 games unbeaten now in all competitions, stretching back to last April. But
how many games, Tom? I'm sorry, how many games?
14. I mean, people forget about that. I think Paco Gemes, with his kind of crazy statements coming out everywhere, that captures the headlines. But he's got this team playing. And I thought against Monterrey, I thought Cesar is exactly right. They did get a bit of luck. But I mean, they're playing with a style now. They're playing with intent. Yeah. And we haven't seen that from a Cruz Azul team for, I want to say, years. And I think I thought against Monterrey, I thought they were just about second best. Yeah. But you saw that the gap isn't, insurmountable. It's not like Cruz Azul couldn't beat Monterrey over a Liga series, given the right circumstances.
No, I agree with that too. I would just say more so just just highlighting how well Monterrey played. But no, I do have to also give credit to the Cruz Azul. If we're looking at the bigger picture here, just how they have become a better side, and the results show. I mean, you look at that league table and what they've done. And Tom, you've written about that as well recently too. It's kind of surprising to see kind of some of the problems off the field when they're doing so well. Now there is an identity. There is something promising. I'm not going to say that they're, but I think that you do look at them. You do see them as a top 4 team, a team that's going to make it into the playoffs.
So Gemes is doing a good job, Adriana. To you already. I mean, from when he got picked on into this season. Anything that you see that it could be a facade, this is Cruz Azul? Or have we finally said, Gemes, great job, Cruz Azul is going to be fine?
I'm kind of not as optimistic sometimes because we've seen this in Cruz Azul so many times. I actually root for the fans sometimes. I feel for them because they seem so many good teams sometimes, and then mid-season something happens and the team just falls apart, or they get into the Liguilla and they just fall in the quarterfinals. I actually do think that Gemes is doing a really good job at keeping pressure off the players.
I think we might.
Do you guys hear me?
Adrian, I think if I can slow, I think we were breaking up a little. Guys, you guys hear? Or is it just me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you get?
Yeah, I can hear it. Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, apologies. I guess it was mine. Go ahead, keep going.
I think Gemes is doing a brilliant job at keeping pressure off the team. Oh, don't worry. I do think that sometimes the team is still not the kudos to Gemes for keeping all the attention on him and off the players, which I'm sure they've gotten a lot of attention at the beginning of the league. Every semester, it's the same thing. Whoever comes into the team, we're always asking, hey, how are you going to finally end that dry spell for Cruz Azul? And right now, it's all Gemes. So I think that's actually a really good strategy. And the players are focusing on doing what they do best, which is playing on the field and focusing on getting those results.
I think it's a very good point about Gemes protecting the players. I think it's something you see, especially a lot in Europe, where maybe you've got slightly better kind of job prospects, and managers can do that. I think in Mexico sometimes managers can't really do that because they have to defend themselves so much. You know what I mean? They can't risk being in the press and being picked on by the press and the fans like that. But yeah, I think that. But the other thing about Cruz Azul that I think they've still got more to give. I mean, if you look at some of the players they brought in, I don't think they've reached their full potential. I mean, Mendes has played extremely well. But I think that some of the other new signings, I think they can still step up. I'm talking about Mena, Mora, Gautier Lucio, Rodriguez. I think those players have got a hell of a lot of potential, to be honest. But better than they were at the start of the season. But they can still step up a level.
No, I see. For example, with Martin Rodriguez, it was unfortunate that he got injured against Cholos in the first week. And he came back. He actually got minutes against Monterrey coming off the bench. I think he's going to be important because he was a starter. I think there is going to be interesting to see how James handles, the attackers that he has, because as you listed, Tom, I mean, there's plenty of good attackers there. You got Cauterucho, you got Mora, you got Mena, who, in my opinion, Mena was perhaps the best player last season when not everything wasn't running smoothly for Cruz Azul. There was ups and downs, but I think Mena was the best player last season for Cruz Azul. And if Mena can return to that level and bring it along with what Edgar Mendez has offered, because keep in mind, when a new player comes to the league like Edgar Mendez, who you really don't understand what his function on the field is going to be, and not that many defenses still know him, I think that's an advantage. And then on top of that, the thing that I like about Mendez is that he's not complaining about the altitude or whatnot, which happened with Victor Vasquez when he came from Belgium. There was complaining about the altitude injuries, but with Edgar Mendez, it's been straight to the deal and putting in the numbers that are required from a player like him and the team. The Cruz Azul needs players that are devoted to the cause. When they're devoted to the cause, stuff can happen. But when there's and right now it seems that all the players are. The midfield there with Vaca and Peñalba is also sensational so far, and Silva.
Forget which commentary team was saying this, but they're saying, you have the MSN, or used to have the MSN, you have the BBC, and now Mexico and Cruz Azul, they have the MMM. Yeah, we've got the Mena, Mora, and Mendez. You got the triple M there going on for Cruz Azul.
No, I think just switching over to Monterrey, I think we've got to mention Jonathan Gonzalez as well, the Californian midfielder. I mean, to get into a side like Monterrey at 18 years old, to keep, Jesus Molina, Mexico international, on the bench, I mean, it shows a hell of a lot of composure. And, I think up in Monterrey, they talk big things about him. I mean, in terms of off the field, in terms of his mental. I spoke to him the other week, and he just seemed so mature and so kind of ambitious without being arrogant, if you know what I mean. That I thought, it was just, you could tell he's a bright kid. And I think that shows in his play, and it shows in the confidence that Antonio Mohamed is giving him this season, because it is sensational to get into a team like Monterrey at 18 years old and keep your place for what is it, like 7 games now.
Yeah. I do wonder if in the future, if that's maybe something that Mexico should be thinking about, because it doesn't look like, there's no call up just yet for the U.S. Women's national team. I know that he has played for their youth squads, but maybe looking forward, that's something that Mexico could think about. Some player like that, like Jonathan Gonzalez is doing really well right now, who has eligibility to play for Mexico.
Sorry, guys. Got some Wi-Fi problems and was able to come back in and get that, but trying to follow on right there. Good talk about Monterrey and Cruz Azul. Let's keep it going with Liga MX before we jump on other topics. I'm there. If you have to pick storyline of Liga MX from last weekend to this weekend, granted we only have maybe around 10 minutes on this segment, what are the talking points? What should everybody knowing about?
I think Cholos, no? I think Cholos
winning finally.
They're winning, and they bring in Juan Iturbe from Roma. Gustavo Boas putting in the goals that we anticipated he would, considering the great player that he was in Argentina. And I think moving forward, seeing exactly how it goes. And of course with Pachuca, Keisuke Honda's debut was one of the highlights so far in this doble jornada, no? And moving forward, that would be interesting to see where he slots in, no? If he's gonna go with Eddie Gutierrez there, Victor Guzman has been a surprise. Victor Guzman is the top Mexican goal scorer in Liga MX right now. So I think that's one of the surprises so far in the season.
Yeah, I would agree with the Xolos thing. I mean, it's just because of the poor start that they had, and then they've just really turned things around. And I've talked about this before, but I think a lot of it just had to do with a change in formation. Instead of going to the back line of 4, they went with the back line of 5. And Claudette has had those high-pressing fullbacks doing very well for the team. So that's definitely a big talking point. And I think, like you said, the Honda thing was also noteworthy. It was unfortunate over here in Tijuana. He didn't talk to any of the press after the game, which was a little disappointing. I was really hoping he would say something, but I think he was a little disappointed after the loss. But also, I mean, I think really quickly we got to bring up Torrente, who no longer has a job with Leon. So you got to think about like who can step up next.
Vucetich.
But that's what people are saying. Vucetich, maybe that's going to happen. But yeah, just to see if they can bounce back, see who takes charge. And and especially since Santos got their first win of the season against them too. So it's just I think that's something worth noting is Torrente, who's no longer has a job.
It's Gustavo Diaz. It's going to be Gustavo Diaz. He's come to Católica from Chile. And he had a short run in Ascenso with Celaya a couple of years ago. So a newcomer, if you want to see it that way, in Liga MX. And let's just see how that goes. I was also rooting for Vucetich. I think everybody was. It would have been like the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Gustavo Diaz. Was he an Uruguayan football player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's at Chile.
I don't know what else jumped out for you last weekend.
Sorry, Tom, didn't catch that.
Like what else jumped out last weekend? Talking points.
I actually enjoyed seeing Lobos fight. So how can we say it? Let's just say, regularly.
Valiantly,
not being massacred by Tigres, I guess, would be the nice way to say it. I think we all knew Tigres would win, but we never thought it would be like a 3-2. It was a really close game. I love seeing the spirit between that Lobos has, and it's just such an attractive game to see and so entertaining, and to see all the players that aren't really the ones that got the promotion last season, but still making a really good team. And it just comes to say that they should give more chances to new trainers, and hopefully they'll keep doing that.
Adriana, do you think, and this is from the chat, Lobos is going to make the playoffs? Is this a team that it was just start off strong and once towards the end of the season, now the bigger teams? I mean, is there hope for the fans that are outside of Puebla? Like, there are no fans in Puebla, but everybody else wants them to do well. For them to actually make a run. I really would like to see them do that, because fairy tale story.
Rooting for I love the fairy tale story. Everybody loves the fairy tale story, but I really don't think so. I think they will get a fair amount of points, and they'll be avoiding lots of relegation problems next season. But I don't see them in the postseason. They still have to visit Chivas, which hopefully will do better. They have to visit Toluca. They'll be facing Toluca, Cruz Azul also at the end, Monterrey, which we just think it's a really tough calendar for them. But still, I think they'll do like probably top 10, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, I think they're going to struggle, me. I think teams. I think they did obviously really well against Tigres, but once again, they're not coming out with any points. And against Atlas, we played a fair amount of the game against 10 players, and it's like, you got to get those. You got to take, if you're fighting this relegation, you got to take those opportunities in a league like Liga MX, which there isn't a massive difference between the best and the worst teams. I love the style of play. I love that they go everywhere and they try and attack the opposition. Yeah. I think they're an absolute breath of fresh air. Let's not forget that this is a team that the ownership are asking fans for money. They're asking people to donate money for them to keep the team afloat, to keep it surviving in Liga MX. But I do fear for him, and I fear for him not in terms of not getting in the Liguilla, but in terms of relegation as well. Because if you look now, I think most people would say they've had quite a good start to the season, but they're not far off relegation now. I think if not the next game, then the game after, they could be in last place if they don't pick up results. So I don't think it's a great squad. I think they're playing well together, but I still think there's a gap between Lobos Buap in terms of quality and a lot of the other teams in Liga MX, and I fear for them in terms of picking up points. And if either of the Quiñones really get injured, then I think they'll struggle desperately, to be honest. But we'll see. Yeah, I do enjoy him.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Yeah, whether it works or not, I enjoyed it a lot too, as opposed to taking the Necaxa approach, which is just like, all right, let's sit back, let's be really organized, let's foul, let's try to like get this either to like a low scoring draw or a low scoring win. I appreciate, just like we just talked about, like their I don't know, just their braveness just their braveness just to go out there and go toe to toe. You saw that against Tigres. I know there was like a goal scoring avalanche there at the end of the match, but no, it's just, and when you have players like Massa and like Juan Carlos Medina in that starting 11, and to be doing stuff like that, I genuinely appreciate it. So yeah, hopefully we'll see. They'll make a little bit more improvements, but yeah, no, I at the very least I do appreciate seeing them go out, and as opposed to doing something like the Necaxa would, they just go out and try to attack teams.
Any other stories? I mean, we can really just spend a whole time on Chivas, but
yeah, I would just say that. Sorry, Tom. I would just say that regarding Lobos, the interesting thing is that now Atlas is last place on the relegation list. So then lots of problems for the Rojinegros for the next couple of weeks after they lost Rafa Marquez. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that because I think that was not contemplated by anybody. I just think everybody thought Lobos would be last and they would be struggling the entire season. And they've surprised us. And Atlas will have a really difficult end of the season.
And lost Clifford too. Yeah.
I mean, Atlas are just, I don't know, I just don't know what's happened. I mean, in the season, it was quite positive, and you think, you know, Profe Cruz has got a good little team together here, and then, you know, Leighton Jimenez injured, Big Cliff's injured, and now all of a sudden Rafa Marquez is, you know, the US government has come in and alleged that he's linked with drug trafficking organizations, and now this week, Ravel Morrison, the English player from Manchester United is, and honestly, I just think that's a massive risk for Los Rojinegros. I think that this is a player who, in terms of talent, you know, I think I said on a video today, he could be the best player in the league. I mean, I know that sounds almost ridiculous and exaggerated, but I don't know, if he can find some form and live up even a little bit to what he showed as a youth player, he's absolutely brilliant. I mean, he does amazing things on the pitch, but I mean, off the field, he's just been a disaster. You know, he's not settled really at any club. He's had trouble with the police in England. You know, he's always had problems with his friends. You know, the friends where he grew up. He always, I don't know, he just hung around with not the right people to be professional. There's a really interesting anecdote about when he played for the English youth national team, and they had a game in Azerbaijan, and Ravel Morrison wouldn't play. He wouldn't eat any of the food first, local food or drink anything over there, and he basically would only eat Mars bars and drink Lucozade. And somebody from the coaching staff came over from England, and they had to bring loads of Lucozade and Mars bars because he didn't have any. I mean, that's the kind of player he is. He's never been able to step up onto just to be a professional. I think a lot of people, when he was a youth, they gave into those kind of things because he was so good. I mean, this is a guy that was better than Pogba when they played in the youth teams in Manchester United. I mean, Ferguson marked him out as the best player he's ever seen as a youth. I mean, you know, better than Giggs, better than, you know, Scholes, David Beckham. So as a youth player, he was absolutely sensational. So the trick at Atlas now is, can Profe Cruz succeed where, you know, Ferguson has failed and get the best out of Ravel Morrison? But it's a major risk with, as Adriano was saying, that Atlas in such a dire situation in terms of the relegation.
No, with this move, real quick, it does kind of remind me how Clifford Awagi arrived to Atlas, kind of behind the scenes, you know, a youth talent from Ghana who had played 2 Youth 20 World Cups, and you know he hadn't really gotten a shot in first division in Spain with Granada, so he comes over to Mexico, and Profe Cruz gets him and brings him up and raises his level and his game. With Morrison, I think it's kind of a different story because, as Tom said, I mean, when a youngster comes from Manchester United, there's a lot of hype around that. There's a lot of attention from England already as to, well, why is Morrison going to Mexico? It's, I would say, kind of adventurous kind of a deal this is, I would say. It's not like Gignac in the sense that, you know, Gignac was coming from France and he was one of the top goal scorers in the league. It's not like Keisuke Honda, who although didn't play that much in AC Milan, he had already a good pass in Cheska Mosca, and you had an idea of what he could offer. But with Morrison, it's a risky one, especially for Atlas that is struggling right now. But if a miracle happens, you know, this stuff happens a lo Atlas, no? And this could be something that is actually positive in the sense, no?
Time out. What's a Mars bar? I'm sorry.
Mars bar, like a chocolate bar.
Okay.
I don't know what it's called over there.
Oh, I've been worried. I'm like, got it.
Right, Morrison. Right? Yeah. No, he does that. What's a Mars bar? Just recently, like thinking about it.
Ever since you said that, I'm on like, Mars bar, is that like a chocolate bar? And then Mars is like the company, right, of like all the stickers and all that other stuff. I think I got it. I was stuck on that, and I'm all Googling it. I don't know what happened.
I'm getting hungry, guys.
And then, sorry. Well, no, good. Let's switch over. Go ahead.
Just a quick little point about. I mean, I think I wrote a story about 7 months ago, about how the Liga MX could internationalize and the steps that they needed to do. And I spoke to some experts in kind of marketing and stuff like that. And if you look since then at the players that have come to Liga MX, I mean, they've basically done one of the main things that people, the market has said to me. Bring in big names from different markets. And if you look at Honda coming in, all of a sudden you've got a little bit of interest in Japan, in Liga MX, thinking, why is Honda gone there? Then in England now, Ravel Morrison, you come into Atlas, all of a sudden, that's going on there. And who am I missing out? A couple more Spaniards, obviously Gignac's still there. Am I missing anyone else? I feel like I'm missing off a big country, but
I mean, I don't know if it's really that fair. You could say someone big like Iturbe, but I don't know if that's really fair. But I mean, it's not. That's still the same. Anywho, continue. That wasn't right.
Rewind. No, but I get that international. It's kind of like the reverse effect when Mexico goes to play in Belgium. I'm sure it's like the leagues that Mexico to play. All of a sudden, we're gonna start following them. And I think,
you start following them. Yeah,
that's the second effect. I mean, I don't think I've ever watched. A game.
Standard league.
The thing with Tigres, I mean, of course, Gignac, and then when they brought in the Lord, and now we see the Lord playing in France, and he's putting in the goals. It's those strange cases. Did
he say that he failed in Liga MX?
But look how I think it's a Tuca effect, man. Right now, sometimes some players nailed it with Tuca, other players can't find a way to understand him, I would say. But for example, with Chile, the Liga MX games some of the Liga MX games do come out in Chile, and they watch them because you got Nico Castillo. I mean, there's more than 15 top Chilean players in Liga MX. No?
They could substitute the Ascenso MX for the Chilean First Division, and then just do like promotion relegation and then from there.
At the rate that we're signing those Chileans, that would just make sense.
Let's switch over. Liga MX Femenil. If you're not watching, paying attention, definitely do. Very, very exciting what's happening. Historic night tonight. Pachuca America. Adriana, you're at tell us, why is it historic, especially tonight, in what happened in Pachuca America, aside from the results? And what's been exciting, and I think at least the right steps for this new league in Mexico and the United States too.
Yeah, well, first of all, it was a draw, 1-1 between Pachuca and America. These are two of the three best teams. They've been unbeaten since the start. It's been 5 weeks for now. It's 2 weeks behind regular Liga MX. The other unbeaten team is Tigres, which has actually not even conceded a goal.
Right?
Which is really amazing. So yeah, America with Leonardo Cuellar, which we all know from the Mexican national women's teams, and on the other side we have Eva Espejo, which is in charge of Pachuca. These two teams they had a draw between with 23,200 people at the Estadio Hidalgo, that's historical. The record previously was owned by Tigres in the Estadio Universitario with over 8,000 people. So then, almost 3 times as much.
23,000 people.
That's really cool.
I don't know what the capacity of the Estadio Hidalgo is, but that was really amazing. Yeah. They had a small promotion. The game was free, but you would get an 100 peso discount for the Pachuca Chivas game for the Liga MX, which was really nice for them. I think the tickets are about 300 pesos or 400 pesos. So then I guess if you want to take a family and such, 300 pesos per ticket, you would appreciate it. And it was really a really good game. Still, we have to mention that lots of these players are really amateur level, but still really competitive teams. Most of the teams I've been averaging about 20 years old, not even U23, which is actually what the league was meant to be. So then you'll still see lots of errors, and you'll still see lots of things to be improved, but still 23,000 people at the Estadio Hidalgo on a Monday night is really quite amazing.
Goleadora de the best of the tournaments. It's really cool. Liga MX Family.mx if you want to go and get some statistics, all in English for the guys and gals here in the United States. Goleadora Lucero Jimena Cuevas, 8 goals, scores in every 52 minutes.
Yeah, she scored today as well.
She scored today. Well, attacking Tigres is just Tigres. 21 goals, 0 against, just dominating. Leads the attacking and the defending. Like when do you all see that the best offense and the best defense? I'll mention Monarcas because of the fair play award that they have so far, with 0 yellow cards and 0 red cards. Some of the statistics, but it's good to see that. Especially, I mean, when I was reading at 23,000 people on a Monday night, even when there are some mid games. Those are beating Liga MX games.
Yeah, I mean, they beat many cup games as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think. Well, there's two things here. I think that first of all, you've got to really appreciate some of the clubs. At least some of the clubs have been making real, what I'd call a significant effort to make this happen, to make this work, to make it be a real thing, if you know what I mean. For example, the joint photos, the fact that clubs are, that the femenile team is playing in these Liga MX stadiums. And if you look at the future of the Mexican national team, girls that are playing in front of 23,000, like tonight, then you go to a World Cup or an Olympics, and suddenly you've got pressure, you've got an atmosphere, you get used to playing under that in that environment. And so it's just so massive for the Mexican women's national team. The other thing, and also let's Fox put it on. They put it on TV, which is a massive step. You have to say it's a massive step. Another quick thing, I think it's only a matter of time before big companies come in. We've seen really a lack of sponsorship so far, specific to the Liga MX Femenil. But I think it's such a massive marketing opportunity in Mexico. It's an untapped market, and I think it's only a matter of time before people cotton onto that. And just final quick point about the Liga MX Femenil. I think it also reflects how serious the institutions are. So who's at the top of the league right now? Well, you've got, a Pachuca team who are obviously very, very serious about everything they do. And they're a proper club. They're a real club. You've got America there as well, who are willing to put money into this. And you've got, Tigres, and you've got Xolos, and you've got Chivas, who are all doing good things. And then you've got, Monterrey. And then you've got two teams, the Puebla teams, who aren't in there yet. Okay, Lobos Guap you can forgive. But you've got Puebla who, up for sale. We don't know what's really going on there. And I think you can see even Cruz Azul haven't really put in the effort that they should have done. But I think it reflects, you can see how good a club is by what the Liga MX Femenil, how they prepared for this women's team this season. Would you agree, Adriana?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think you can see it in several squads, especially America, which hired Leonardo Cuellar, which we know by all his experience in the Mexican national team. We saw Pachuca tour in Texas around April, and at the same time, we had teams that hadn't even made any type of scouting, which is really amazing. You had Atlas, which hadn't really even announced when they were going to have all these scouting sessions, and tour in Texas. Then you can see the difference between all the teams. It's sad to see Cruz Azul is the only team that doesn't play with the actual uniform that the men play. It's some decision by the team. It wasn't even the brand's fault. And Tigres, well, just being Tigres, they actually, let's say they bought 2 players from Xolos, which Xolos had a women's team long before the Liga MX Femenil came on. So they actually bought 2 of their players, which is very Tigres-like.
Yeah.
Tom, or any that you've heard? Obviously, the stories that came out of any other foreign nationals, especially American, Mexican Americans, are coming or internationally, or anything as far as leagues, or where can we expect that, or anything?
What do you mean, the Mexican American players?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard that that rule's set to be changed. That we think it's going to be changed. I don't think they're going to allow foreign players as yet, but I think they're going to change it so that I don't know, the Mexican citizens born in the United States, can kind of, can play in the league. Because I think this league started as well. I mean, this is the other thing that's worth mentioning, that it started with, some stories coming out, real negative stories about kind of pregnancies, about the pay conditions, about that kind of stuff. And it was its story blew up. It went international, and I don't think it was entirely true either. And then you had the other story was about the Mexican American girls, which, I did a feature on that, and, I still feel the same. I don't think it's very fair at all. I think if you're a citizen of a country, you should count as a domestic player. It doesn't matter where you're born, because at the end of the day, the Mexican Constitution guarantees, the rights of somebody with one Mexican parent, that, that they are a Mexican. So I don't know how even legal it is what they've done. And I think it's especially sad because there were girls down in Mexico that had sacrificed a lot, to make this happen, to come down to, and they were desperate to play in this league. And I think they could have given a lot as well, because a lot of them have come through really good US universities, where I think, you know, at the end of the day, if you look, where's the best place in the world to learn how to be a professional women's soccer player? It's in the US at the universities, you know. And I think that it's a shame. I thought those girls, you know, Olivia Jimenez, Jasmine Aguas at Chivas, Clarissa Robles up there in Tigres. I think those girls could have given a lot to this league, and hopefully the Liga MX will change that rule sooner rather than later.
Well, let's see what happens in the Clásico Regio. No, it's coming up in the Liga MX Femenil as well. You know, there's good attendance tonight in Pachuca. Shows that, you know, the city is kind of interested in what's to come with the team. And now we'll see what Monterrey and how it responds. You know, of course, Monterrey wants to be known as this Clásico Regios is probably one of the best rivalries in all of Mexico, and hopefully it's the same with the women's game.
Very true. All right, let's talk about El Tri. Yes.
And there's no Liga MX activity this week, so
can't hear you. Oh.
Is it just me, or is it just me that I can't hear? Last time I couldn't.
No, that's all of us.
The thing is that
Try it again.
Are you still there? Because
yeah.
that's how I heard her. There we go. Okay, what did you say?
I was just saying that next week it's there's no Liga MX, so it'll be nice to see how much attendance we'll have at the different games, because people won't be able to go anywhere except the Estadio Azteca, and we know how they feel about going to see the national team right now.
Dun, dun, dun. Very, very, very good.
There we go.
Very good point.
Good little bridge, that. Good little bridge.
All right, let's talk about El Tri. Let's talk about 2 qualifiers coming up. It's almost over. Get ready to throw out the champagne. I mean, we're going to be in the World Cup. All we need is 1 more point. But instead of being happy, I feel like there's still this negative cloud of what happened over the summer. But let's jump in. Juan Carlos Osorio released his list for the games coming up. So let's talk about initial thoughts on that list. We already have some injuries aside from the other injuries that have been happening. But initial thoughts, we'll go Mr. Tom. As far as the list, for some reason, I thought that there was going to be, you know, in these types of players, at these types of players, and we all start seeing a start at 11. But Juan Carlos is going to Juan Carlos Osorio no matter what. Even his subs don't make sense. But with you, anyone that should be left off, or how would you grade this list?
Well, I don't know. I don't really agree with most people who go crazy when the lists come out. But I think this Mexican national team is quite settled. I mean, you know who's coming in. You know those Europe-based players are coming in, because basically, even though a lot of them aren't playing, you know, like Hector Herrera, Diego Reyes, it's like, where else do you look? At the minute, that's the problem for the national team. It's the problem for Osorio. So for me, the biggest surprise was Miguel Layún, because obviously he's been such a consistent figure for the national team of late that I think that was the biggest omission for me. I would have liked to see Paul Aguilar, because I think he's playing quite well for America, and I think that, I don't know, if you look at what Juan Carlos Osorio does when he plays a flat back 4, at least one of the fullbacks tends to be more attacking, and the other tends to be kind of a centre back basically. And so if you've not got Layún, I think that attacking fullback could have been Paul Aguilar, going in down the right, and then you put somebody on the left, like even play Moreno as a left back. And I don't know, I just thought Osorio might do something like that. But yeah, obviously the lack of fullbacks is something that also jumps out. But I think that points to him playing a back 3 in at least one of the games.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by this roster at all. I mean, I think, like Tom said, Paul Aguilar was the only player that I wanted to see in there. But he didn't get the call. But I would have liked to see some more fullbacks. I mean, the other players that you could have liked seeing, I mean, you would have wanted like Oribe Peralta, but he was obviously injured. Layún, which was a mutual agreement, so maybe that means that he'll be leaving Porto soon. I mean, maybe I could even say someone like Gael Sandoval, maybe someone like him. But it wasn't really that
Pizarro, maybe
shocking. Yeah, maybe Pizarro, but there's nothing really, that, like Tom said, there wasn't really that shocking about this team, nothing shocking about that roster. And yeah, other than like a handful of players who have had injuries, like this is kind of what we expect. And with this roster, Mexico should be able to, to basically qualify for the World Cup after these 2 games. And also, I was doing the math really quickly. Basically, Mexico just needs a win to essentially qualify for a spot, but statistically speaking, they could still get a win and still not qualify, but the odds are like minute. They're like tiny, tiny, tiny. So basically, if Mexico gets a win either of these 2 games, they're essentially in. It's not guaranteed, but it's like 99.99999. It's still possible for them to get a tie back.
With this call-up, I think the return of Tecatito Corona is important. I think after him resolving his situation and seeing that, he's practically the only Mexican that is a sure starter in Porto, I think is great for the national team. Not having Tecatito Corona hindered Mexico's attack in the Confederations Cup because of the number of goals he scored in the Osorio era. He's been a really important part of the Osorio era all around. And right now, you basically have your 2 wingers, Tecatito and Chuky, that are playing at a maximum level. And I think that it really guarantees them a shot to start alongside Chicharito Hernandez up top. And
he's also scoring.
He's also scoring, so I think it's clicking at the moment. So it might be fun over there at Estadio Azteca on Friday. And the thing that he has to work on is the central midfield. No, there's no Rafa Marquez. Keep in mind, it's a refreshing kind of deal here that Edson Alvarez is in, so he might get a role there. Edson Alvarez might go to the right back position, or it could be Dueñas going to the center and Dueñas goes to the right back position. This versatility that goes on with certain players, it's something to point out. But I think the center of the midfield is important because I think Herrera has been really bad at club level since the start of the year. He hasn't really shown anything at club level. And right now, he hasn't even started with Porto. And you're giving too much responsibility to a player that is really not showing his best football as of late. Thankfully, Guardado, I think, at the role in the center of the midfield, I think finding a way to combining those 2. And let's see how Jonathan is doing. I think at the end of it all, whatever's going on, Jonathan was probably the best player in the Confederation. So that's another asset in the midfield. Maybe we see Herrera, Jonathan, and Guardado in the midfield. But I think a lot of, how would I say, there's many things that can have many combinations, but I think the most important thing is that Tecatito's back.
Adriana, will we still see the experiments? Everyone keeps saying that the experiments only work with CONCACAF players. He needs at least a tie. I think Cesar saying that a win it still doesn't get us that qualification, but does he go full force in these next 2 games as a statement? Does he get that tie and continue to do experiments on where he's at? Some of the players aren't playing in Europe that he uses. Hector Moreno, for example, hasn't been playing. But what do you think on Juan Carlos Osorio?
I definitely think that whenever Juan Carlos Osorio is at the bench, there's going to be experiments because that's what we've seen ever since he got here. We were actually everyone asked him about the left back and the right back situation. Ever since Confederations Cup, nobody's ever understood his logic. I'm sure there is a logic, but we just don't get it. So he's saying that Gallardo and Hector Moreno could play at left back, and then he could have Edson Alvarez or even Diego Reyes on the other side, on the right back, which is really weird. Lovely. Nobody gets it. Yeah, nobody gets it really. You could have guys like Paul Aguilar and just other players playing that natural position. So I think he'll keep making these experiments. I do think they'll get the win, hopefully. But I do think that he has to focus on having a really happy crowd at the Estadio Azteca. He's not going to be at the bench. We have to remember that he still has one game to. He's still suspended for one more game. So I really think he has to focus on having all the Mexican national fans on his side, which he doesn't have ever like months ago. But I think it's really important to make Azteca actually be a difficult place to play for the other teams, or something that we've considered in the last couple of months is also trying to alter. They could go play in the Estadio Jalisco, and I don't know, or maybe Estadio Chivas. And that could be something worth considering for the next couple of games, seeing as though if we win, they won't be risking anything.
Yeah, it kind of seems like that's the most practical thing, or that's, I don't know, I want to say practical. Maybe that's what Osorio is more than likely going to do, is that he's going to, try to get that win. More than likely, depending on the other results, get that spot, for the World Cup, and then maybe go, mix it up a little bit against Costa Rica away. I know it's tough. It's one of the more difficult matches, away at Costa Rica. But if there was a time for him to maybe mix things up a little bit, is you get the win first, and then you try some experiments, and maybe not some serious experiments. I mean, we'll see. You never know with Osorio, but see what he does in that second match against Costa Rica.
On the chat, I wish Victor Guzman would have gotten called. It's kind of, it's
I think it goes along with what Tom said in the beginning. I think this team is settled. I think you already kind of have an idea who the 23 will be in the World Cup, which is something that tends not to happen with the national team. What happens in the World Cup, who knows? But at least right now, you know that these 30 players are in this pool, and they are probably going to go to the World Cup. Pizarro, he's doing great in Liga MX, but it's not looking like he's going to be an option.
But the problem is that you might know how the 30 players, but we don't know how they're going to play.
I mean, I think there are things. You kind of know which, like, there's a core set of players that that are going to be in that starting 11 this Friday. I think that, and when looking at the roster, it's just, I mean, for the most part, most of these guys are going to be going to Russia next year. The only player I really have any serious doubts over is maybe someone like Jürgen Damm, or even like Elias Hernandez, but Elias Hernandez is out because of an injury. But I don't know. I just don't think it's as surprising or shocking as everyone thinks it is, just because everyone talks about Osorio. They're like, oh, there's a rotaciones, there's a rotations. Who knows what he's going to do? It's like, no, we kind of know what he's going to do. He's going to make some surprises, but for the most part, we know what he's going to do.
It's like the scarlet letter, I swear. Every time someone says rotaciones, everyone just gets really antagonistic and just starts saying everything against. I think actually what bothers people is not the rotation of putting players in that weren't usually in the starting lineup. I think what really bothers fans is not understanding why you would put a player in a position they usually don't play. Yeah. I think that's the main problem. And I think that's why Osorio has so many fans against him. And I really hope he works on that, because it's going to be really difficult getting into a World Cup with a coach that everybody hates.
Yeah, I think that's the other interesting thing about it. That is, it poses the question of, should people in the federation? I mean, I don't think Osorio's done a good job at getting that across, because absolutely nothing he does is by, he's just kind of like, oh, just waking up one morning, oh yeah, I'm going to put this guy there. No, it's absolutely studied, absolutely 100%. Probably more than most managers. But I don't think he's got the message across. I don't think the federation has got the message across either. And I think if you look behind the scenes, you had Santiago Baños there. And really, how is he ever going to speak for Osorio? I mean, Miguel Herrera's assistant, who was moved to sporting director, who, if you talk to people, everyone seems to think he's a really nice guy. But, I mean, how is he ever going to be kind of Osorio's representative? And now the question is, with Torrado coming in as the sporting director, with Dennis Ticlose coming in as kind of the director of national teams, can they do a better job? When they have to speak, can they kind of explain to people what Osorio's doing? But I mean, honestly, if I've just read a book, 25 years of the Premier League in tactics, and a lot of these ideas that Osorio comes up with, they're in there. I'm reading a book at the minute about Pep Guardiola, the evolution, and again, you can see where he's taking these ideas. But I think the thing with Osorio that I don't get even personally is kind of a mishmash of
everybody's
philosophies that he's putting together. And sometimes I don't understand it. Because, I mean, for example, he's definitely got a side to him, Osorio, that's like, it's almost like a moral thing where you go to any stadium, any pitch, anywhere in the world, and you implement your game. It's like, we're going to do this, we're going to take the game to you. But then again, he also thinks a lot about the opposition, and he puts certain things in place to stop the opposition. So it's a difficult philosophy to understand. The example when they went to Trinidad and Tobago, and if I'm not mistaken, they played 4 centre-backs. Yeah. He played 2 centre-backs and then 2 centre-backs in front of the 2 centre-backs. I mean, obviously there's reasons for that, because Trinidad and Tobago's basically the only way they score goals is direct balls to Kenwyne Jones. And he was like, if I can stop those balls, then we can win this game. But I mean, I think that's the thing. That's the thing about Osorio that even people who actually think about it struggle to understand. Where's that balance between, we're going to go all out and attack, and then kind of, we need to pick a team that can negate the qualities of the opposition. And the biggest thing that Osorio does in terms of that is, I think he feels Mexico really weak in the air, and specifically from set pieces. So therefore, when you see him putting the fullbacks, the centre backs, a lot of the time it's because of that, because he wants to have 5, 6, even 7 players who are good in the air in the team. And why? Because he's done the percentages, he's done the research, and he's researched that 30% of goals come from set pieces. And it's not like he's just throwing it out there. But like I said, it's that balance of when you're talking about yourself and your team, and when you're talking about the opposition team, that is difficult, I think, for people to get their heads on. And, sometimes I include myself in that as well.
I just wish he would just kind of go out and explain that to people. I just wish if that's what his line of thinking is, that he would state it. But maybe if he were to state it, that would kind of ruin part of his process, and therefore other managers can see what he's trying to do. But I think that's just, especially when you talk about the fullbacks, that's the big talking point sometimes, and especially when you look at the last roster. It's just, that's something that people keep discussing, that people keep being bothered about. And I do wish that maybe not even necessarily him, but someone else like within his group that would explain the reason why he's not choosing those traditional right backs and fullbacks.
It's called embarrassment. If the 7-0 and the Germany game wouldn't have happened the way that it happened, I think people would be like, all right, we're in the World Cup, and it's just going to come down to that. It's more to the fans of not being embarrassed on a national stage, not being embarrassed in the World Cup, and playing against these great teams. People just don't see it, regardless of how great of a tactician. Tom, the book title. Some of the guys on the chat want to know what you're reading, man.
Yeah, it's The Mixer by Michael Cox, and then Pep Guardiola: The Evolution by Marty Perenau, who's good friends with Pep Guardiola. It's basically, it might as well be Pep writing it, because they're so good friends that they explain basically the last season or the last 2 seasons at Bayern Munich, and how he changes, how he kind of goes from obviously Barcelona, a club he grew up with the Cruyff identity, and then goes over to a club in Germany which has a very different style of play, and how kind of Pep and the players all had to adapt to that, and what he created there. It's fascinating. And someone like Osorio, that's what he loves. When I interviewed him, he said, he gets excited. He's like, every Saturday, I make myself a bit of food, and I just go and sit down, watch some European games, and I write my notes. And he's like, he gets really excited about it. And, that's what he loves doing. And I think for people who really want to understand, you can point to the influences, but the thing is, you have to take influences from Mourinho and then influences from Guardiola, and then to mesh them together and come out with an understanding is difficult. I'll use an example. Mourinho, as soon as he came to Chelsea the first time, one of the first things he did was start playing centre-backs as full-backs. Gallas is the one that springs to mind. Ivanovic in more recent times. But even Ferguson has done that. Ferguson used to play Wes Brown as a right-back. So it's not something completely new. But it's just difficult because he has got a range of influences, and some of them sometimes they seem to be conflicting.
Well, while Tom's learning about tactics, I just finished reading I Am Zlatan, and I learned that Zlatan really likes playing video games, and he really likes fast cars. That's about it.
One real quick thing about the national team, I think, that has to be noted, is that this generation, the Guardados, the Morenos, the Velas, the Giovannis, they have, I think this is the last World Cup where they will be at the peak of the level. There's no tomorrow. I think a lot of them felt that the last World Cup, even with all the turmoil that happened, it was horrible, they still managed to give a good impression on the world stage. Now, look, some of them are preparing adequately, others are not preparing themselves adequately, in my opinion. But this is their last chance. Chicharito, I could also include him in the same pool. Maybe Chicharito will play another World Cup, but I think this is the one that he's at his peak. I think they have to really realize, this is a big chance. No matter who they face in the World Cup, it could be the group of death or whatever. They have to give a great performance, And of course, here we put a lot of blame on the coach sometimes and be like, well, what is he doing with this decision or whatnot? I think the communication between the players and the coach has to be really extreme. And by the looks of it, they look like they like Osorio, and they've been saying it many, many, many times. This is the first time that the team arrives to World Cup with the same process, with the same coach that goes beyond 2 years. And I think that is a positive in a way. No matter if sometimes you question the decisions and they go all bad. I think this is their last shot. They got to make the best of it. And then we'll see what happens next, And it's not looking pretty what's going to happen next, because many of these players that are the next generation are not even playing in Liga MX. They're not having enough playing minutes, so the future, when you look at the long term, when you look at 2022, 2026, it's not looking pretty at the moment. There has to be a revolution in the league and the federation in order to understand that, hey, you need to give minutes to these youngsters. Mexico needs forwards. Mexico needs attacking midfielders, because all of the foreigners that are coming in are attacking midfielders and the strikers. So look, this is a good generation. They won the gold medal. They got U17 World Cup in 2005. This is then, this is what maybe we might remember them as. It could be a total failure, but it could actually be a good success, and you just don't realize it right now.
Yeah, especially when you look at some of those players, for example, these are the players who are 27 or older. You have John Herrera, Aquino, Gio, Vela, Chicharito, Moreno, Guardado, Ochoa. So it is, if this might be their last World Cup. So yeah, if there is a time for them to step up World Cup wise, it should be the next one.
It's not going to be the last World Cup. I'm telling you that right now. Let's talk what's going to happen. Prediction. We'll give it to Miss Adriana. Adriana, what's we got Panama, we got Costa Rica. What happens in those games and why?
I'm guessing a 2-0 victory for El Tri at Estadio Azteca with a very disappointing crowd. I think Costa Rica plays the States, right?
Yeah, plays the States in I think New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah. And then travels back.
I think Costa Rica will actually have a tough time at the States. I'm guessing probably the U.S. Probably another 2-0 victory. No, 2-1. 2-1. I think Costa Rica might get a goal somewhere in there.
And then Mexico and Costa Rica?
Well, that's a tough one. That visit's really difficult now. I might actually go for a tie, because I would actually think Osorio, if he wins against Panama, he will keep on experimenting as he usually does. But this time, I think I don't think there'll be any problem with it. As a fan, I'll be just like you guys and saying, hey, if you have 3 more games with these guys, just experiment as much as you want and see whichever one of them actually makes the team next year. So I'm guessing a tie at Costa Rica. But if we have the win this Friday at Panama, I don't think there's any problem with it. I think he can keep on experimenting as long as there's no risk of losing any points or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going with 2-0. I think Mexico get the job done, and then I'm going to go 0-0, 0-0 over there in Costa Rica. I think one thing we've learned, Osorio knows how to go to these CONCACAF away grounds, away stadiums, and kind of shut down a game and kind of neutralize the opposition. And yeah, I think Mexico have only conceded twice over 6 games so far in the hexagonal. I mean, they really have strolled so far, and I think that if Mexico can get that victory against Panama, I mean, it just, with all the stuff that gets said about Osorio, with all the things he had to deal with in terms of the criticism, he'll take a Mexico team to Costa Rica 4 years after that awful performance, that kind of nadir of the Mexican, in the history of the Mexican national team, and he'll take him there with the Costa Ricans forced to get a result, and Mexico already through. So I mean, I just think it'll be such a contrast, and such a, whatever you say about Osorio, the number one priority was qualifying for the World Cup, and they're on the brink of that now. So I don't know.
No, but I mean, also to look forward. Let's see how many minutes he gives to the players that haven't really played in Europe, like Héctor Moreno, like Herrera. Carlos Vela has come off the bench, in both games so far in La Liga. So, for example, someone like Guardado might play against Panama, but he won't play against Costa Rica, which could be a risk considering how important Guardado will be without Marquez being on the picture. But, I think that's going to be something to look at. And like I said, I mean, it's really, he's been handling the Hex quite well. The whole qualifiers have been smooth rides. I mean, wins in Honduras, wins in Canada, wins in Trinidad. Of course, but also it's also what happened in the Centenario and the Confederations Cup that sort of tars a little bit the present. Oh, the win in Columbus, why we can't forget that one as well.
I like what you guys are saying, but I'm not gonna agree. I think Mexico's going to do well in the Estadio Azteca. 2-0, 3-0. I think it's going to be an easy game, fairly easy game, because they want the results. They're going to be fired at the Azteca, bring back winning, gustando. But I think going into Costa Rica, players that are already part of the World Cup, experiments from Juan Carlos Osorio. I would love it if they went back and remember 4 years ago what happened in Costa Rica with the fans and in El Estadio Nacional. But I'm predicting a loss. I'm thinking Juan Carlos is gonna try to experiment. The players are already in. They don't want to injure themselves. People got to go back to Europe. More experiments. And I'm predicting a loss there. Estadio Nacional. I don't think Costa Rica has lost a game there yet. But then at the same time, watch them take the result and another historic win for Mexico. Beating Costa Rica and they're stadium they've lost. So anything can happen with JCO. I'm predicting that loss. Cesar, do we hear your prediction?
I mean, just like everyone else is saying, I'm going to say Mexico gets a 3-0 win this Friday. And depending on how the other results go, they might be able to qualify. I mean, like I said, it's like a 99% chance that they're going to qualify as long as they get that win. But either way, I think, they get that win this Friday. They get a draw against Costa Rica. And then afterwards, I mean, they could even get a loss against Costa Rica and still qualify for the World Cup. But I think, after these next two qualifiers, Osorio's going to get that main goal. He's gonna clinch it, and that main goal for him has been to qualify for the World Cup, and that's what's gonna happen.
Osorio all the way to the World Cup.
Yeah.
All right, time to sign off. Want to thank everyone here on the chat, everyone stuck with us, and also you guys there, our experts, Tom, Naive, Cesar. We're gonna give it to Adriana to close us off. Here at the Mexican Soccer Show, you are welcome to come. We're gonna be rotating with special guests on a more regular basis. So excited to see that, but excited for you to join our podcast, Adriana. So you get to close it off. You have whatever you want to say. It could be about anything. If you want to talk to McGregor-Mayweather fight, Game of Thrones, big weekend.
How tempting!
Big weekend in outside of football. But thank you so much, Adriana, and close us off. To have a wonderful week in these El Tri coming up.
Well, thank you guys, first of all, for having me on. I had a really good time. I hope you didn't hear too much clatter going on around here at the office, but it's been a real pleasure talking to you guys. Hopefully we'll have a really good game this week. People log in, talk to us on Twitter, and it's been a real pleasure. And hopefully we'll see lots of really good Liga MX games and a really good El Tri matches this week and next Tuesday. Thanks, you guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Adriana. Cesar,
thank you.
We'll see you guys on the next episode of the Mexican Soccer Show.